Welcome back, guys. Now time for another video from the Vigor Warriors Club 2 and the 1% Club. I got a little bit of sound in the background. I'll try to kind of work around a little bit. But once again, it's great to be alive this morning. Great to have another great day to get things done. I'm going to try to work in the yard after I get done here. But the idea that we're going to focus on another great idea here to make sure that you guys are kind of getting the information that you need to better yourself. And that's my key. So once again, we're going to focus on another great topic here. Before I do that, but let me give it a big shout out to my friend SH, Shab in France. Thank you, Shab, for the donation. And I appreciate all donations. I try not to push donations that much because I'm really not interested in that part of it. But I am using the money that Shab gave me to kind of try to better the productions. I originally tried to go on a computer, and I just didn't get the kind of sound quality and things that I wanted. And so I went to the phone, and hopefully this is a little better for the time being, but my picture is obviously not as long as and wide as I wanted to be. So I'm going to go back to a computer, maybe a desktop type of computer or something to be able to use to do this. But so any kind of donation you give is going to go all of that, and I'm going to try to kind of continue doing better in production. But the gist of all this, guys, is the information. It's got nothing to do with the production part. I don't really believe in a lot of the glitzy stuff and all the pictures and everything, except if it gets the point across. And that's what I'm trying to do, is kind of get the point across so that you guys see that and can kind of make a judgment and evaluation on whether or not this is something that you believe is going to help you in the long run. Some of the things I say may not help you, and that's okay. And I'm certainly not an expert. I can give you information on my 30-some years in teaching and communications, relationships, things like that. But I can also give you my last 482 days, I think it is, with my journey, which I think a lot of you are more interested in, and also the 10 days now, 9 to 10 days that are hard mode, which is kind of that's even a harder battle, trying to get to that level and get many days on that. So those are the types of things that I'm going to focus on in trying to provide information to you. So today, on this video at least, we're talking about a great question from my man E-Trillionaire. So thanks, E-Trillionaire. Shout out to you on this one. Talking about the idea of the Huns and relationship with the Roman Empire. I mentioned this in the video I did with Plato in the Academy because it was a good example of how societies fall and rise based on the level of their self-control. And so let's talk about that a little bit, and let's talk to see how that impacts the things that we're talking about in our journey. So why do we talk about this journey? So ask yourself this question, my friends. Why is not everybody, why is the 99% people not doing this? Okay? Well, in my estimation, we are in kind of a society that's actually, whether it's purposeful or not, dumbing down and weakening our male population in a lot of ways. This imagery, all this stuff, this products, all this is doing this to try to make men weaker. And we're taught as boys type things not to be as strong and these virile men. It's actually frowned upon to be this way that I'm talking about. However, you do that, then you have no strong males to protect your society. And there may be another reason for that. I'm not going to go into that in this one. However, if you saw what happened to all the empires, and let's talk about the Roman Empire specifically in this one. You talk about what happened with them. The Roman Empire was a strong, strong empire for many years. But it wasn't until they got caught up in their own immoral, lascivious behaviors that they started having problems. And it's because they could not control themselves. They would be having, mass types of orgies and things like that, and not being able to control themselves. And there's documented research talking about how that led to extreme violence, especially from a leader named Caligula, who basically, kind of went to the extremes And this is what happens when you have a lack of control. See, there's very few stories in human nature, my friends. They've been played out over and over again. That's why history is a very important subject. Because if you don't know history, you're going to bound to repeat it over and over again. And this is what's happened in our society. All these societies felt like they could actually go ahead, and I'll wait till this passes by, but all great societies have felt victim more to themselves internally than they did to anything outside. Because a great society, a great, dynasty of some sort, could not be challenged during its heyday. But those are the times when they were strong. And if you look at the 300s, for instance, and you look at the Roman empires, the training for those soldiers were at the point where they were almost like professional athletes before competition. There was not a lot of the energy loss we're talking about. In fact, it was frowned upon. If you're going to be a soldier, you cannot allow distractions and things to get to you to the point where you're losing focus. That makes no sense. When you look at things, you cannot have distractions around you. And that's one of the things we talk about when we talk about having men and women, together in any kind of situation, whether it's battling or anything, or war, something like that. The distractions are what makes people weaker, because it doesn't allow them to focus on the enemy and the things that they have to take care of. And so if you look at all the history, and you look at, obviously, Julius Caesar, he was, there was traitors all over the place. There was people within the Roman Empire after a while that were just interested in their own self. And as the years went on, they basically went ahead and just fell victim. Even Caesar, he fell victim to Cleopatra. And a lot of things he did led to his demise, even though you may not think of it that way. But all the things he did actually led to his loss of control. When he got involved with Cleopatra, he basically lost the reasoning of thinking about the Roman Empire as being the #1 situation, and all they did was focus on their whole idea of trying to make Cleopatra happy. And I think in many regards, once that happens, the person becomes weaker, and they can't lead the same way they led before. And if you kind of fast forward a number of years, as after Caesar and all the people that followed up to Caligula as well, you saw where the Roman Empire, after 100 years or so, started falling down. From Nero to a lot of people in Caligula, when you look at the whole idea that you're sensing that they don't care about the destruction of Rome. They only cared about grabbing what they could. And when you didn't have that cohesive unit, see, one of the things the Roman Empire was built upon was the whole idea of a cohesive unit that would protect the country, protect their dynasty. And when that happened, all of a sudden, all these other entities around there, Attila the Hun and the Huns were a good example of that. There was other ones as well. But Attila the Hun was a good example of someone who decided, okay, we're strong enough to go into Rome. And he met with the Pope, and actually go to terms, because they were going to go ahead and take over parts of the Roman Empire. And why does it happen? Why does it happen to a big country, a big dynasty? You can see some of the correlations in the United States. If we're not careful, these little factions of distractions and corrupt behaviors from within divide people. Doesn't that sound familiar, what's happening a little bit today, right? But a lot of the behaviors are lascivious. And I call lascivious immoral and losing your energy. So a lot of those behaviors create more lascivious behaviors, because it's not good enough to do one thing. now you have to get more excitement and more excitement. All of a sudden now you're not just going ahead and cheating on your wife or having affairs with multiple women all over the place. Now you're going to go ahead and try to take it to another level. And then you start mixing into violence and brutality and all those type of things. And you see where Caligula was world famous for his thirst for violence and all kinds of high levels of passion that he could not control. And we have a leader who can't control people. That creates a lot of problems within. And so Attila knew this. He realized that at some level they were destroying themselves. And partly they knew this because in many ways what happened was that they would switch soldiers. So what I mean by that is that the Huns would have someone come into, as a child, the Roman Empire and learn the Roman ways. And the Romans would send somebody to the Huns to learn the Hun way. And after a while, what they figured out was that the Romans were so corrupt after a while in the way they were doing things that Attila knew there was only a matter of time before they were able to go in and try to take over parts of it. And that's why they had to make a deal to try to save the Roman Empire. And the Pope did that at the time. Try to save the Roman Empire from destruction from Attila and other groups that were going in. Okay? So the key to the whole thing is to actually say, okay, if the leader is not in control, if they're too corrupt, if they don't have self-control, then how can they control the people? And I think that's the whole problem you see all the time. And so we see this in our society now. As our males become weaker, our sense to protection is going to be weaker to protect people. And why wouldn't we think the same thing is going to happen? Some other country comes in and wants to take over because they're stronger, because we don't have that strength anymore. And a lot of that strength comes from the weakness of losing your energy, which is what happened so many ways in the Roman Empire. So the Roman Empire, just like a lot of the other dynasties we talked about, they fall victim from within, not outside. Very rarely are they defeated by a bigger foe, especially if they're a giant dynasty. More times than not, they crumble from within first, and then people can take them over. Okay? So that's why as you look at this journey, this is crucial in our world right now, because there's a chance that we also are moving in that type of realm, little by little. Now, is it going to happen overnight? No. But it can happen. And once again, it can happen because individuals end up losing their virility, losing vitality, and they become very weak, right? If you have an army of all beta males compared to alpha males, are you going to win? I don't think so, my friends. I don't think so. You need to have these strong warriors who are not fazed by anything around them. And that includes any distractions, stress, anything like that. They have to be trained hard. And if you're losing your energy in doing that, you can't be trained that way. You're on the opposite end. And now you find victim, and you're not going to be able to protect the country, let alone your own family. Okay? All right, so thanks again, eTrillionaire, for the comment, and we're going to come back with another one. But it's a great topic, and we'll talk more about history as we go on. I'll go back and talk about Marcus Aurelius as well. But the idea is that you want to focus on looking at the history a little bit to know why people fail. And when it comes to countries and it comes to relationships, you see the biggest problem is a lack of self-control, which comes from not retaining, okay, and not being able to control yourself. All right, till next time, guys, battle on.